By all accounts, the Winnipeg Jets had quite the successful weekend, sweeping both Florida-based teams in the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. But the Jets cannot rest on their laurels. With the Preds and Flames both winning, it is incumbent upon the Jets to continue their upward trajectory and get back on track as they are still in a wildcard spot. The Jets now face the Carolina Hurricanes, and this team will present a unique challenge that Winnipeg hasn't often faced this year. We'll dive into this Canes team and a major news update with them in just a moment on tonight's episode of Locked On Winnipeg Jets.
You're Locked On the Hockey Jets, your daily podcast on the Winnipeg Jets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, friends, and welcome to tonight's episode of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Harrison Lee, an avid Winnipeg Jets fan and an online blogger. You can follow me on Twitter at HLivingLoco and at LO_Winnipeg Jets. Thanks for making Locked On Jets your first listen of the day every day. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform of choice, including Apple, Spotify, Google, Megaphone, Odyssey, and YouTube. Doing so is completely free of charge and ensures you never miss another episode. But most of all, we just really love and appreciate your support. Now, like I said at the top of the episode, the Jets are going to be facing off against the Carolina Hurricanes, the leading team in the Metropolitan Division, although they are tied with the New Jersey Devils for first and second. Right now, the Canes are currently ranked first. It's probably by, head-to-head record or something. Not entirely sure. Or actually, it's by points percentage as it is. But all that said, it's very tight at the top. You can tell that Carolina and New Jersey are going to be fighting all the way till the end for the Metro Division crown. But in the meantime, Carolina has had a pretty major change to the roster. Andrei Svechnikov went down with a major knee injury, and the concern is that it is a torn ACL, which for Svech is really, really unfortunate. And for the Canes, now they're kind of in trouble. This Carolina team is obviously very good. They're very deep, lots of scoring depth. But when you look at the actual roster and who has been their statistical leaders throughout the season, you start to realize that Svech was actually one of their top 3 contributors and one of their most important pieces in that top 6. This year, Marty Necas is leading the way with 60 points in 65 games. And then after that, it's kind of your usual suspects. You've got Aho with 55, Svech with 55, Brent Burns with 51. And then, it gets into the 30s and 20s range, which is great for the Canes because, their middle 6 and bottom 6, you have 3 to 4 lines of really good productivity and guys contributing up and down the lineup. But to lose one of your top 6 pieces, especially somebody who is as offensively ambitious and important as Svechnikov is, that's a pretty big blow. And for the Jets, probably something of a break. I don't know what Winnipeg's roster is going to be in today's game, in part because we haven't really had practice skates yet, and the Jets were kind of concerned about, some of the day-to-day health of some of their skaters. We haven't really heard a lot about Morrissey other than that. I don't think he's really anticipated to be in this game. I could be mistaken, but last I heard, it didn't sound great from what Bonus was saying. Something like, a couple of games he'll probably be missing is my guess. But again, until we hear a little more definitively, we can only speculate as to his current situation. With Pierre-Luc Dubois, I'm kind of hoping that Dubois is able to come back. I think Appleton also might have been on the mend. Appleton past couple of games, he hasn't really looked 100%. Mason, I feel like, he's just been sort of there, had a couple of breakaways here and there, but nothing too exciting. So it'd be nice to see him kind of channel more of that Andrew Kopp form. Maybe he's still getting up to speed. I don't know. But whatever the case may be, the Jets are definitely ailing, and they don't have a lot of depth to replace a number of their key contributors. So we'll see if Dubois is ready to go in this game. I'm hoping that he is because Carolina is one of those teams that, while they don't have elite finishing talent at every position, what they do have is a really deep and well-balanced offense. So this is a team that I think is going to pressure the Jets. Winnipeg is going to be really in tough to try and win this game. Honestly, if they lose this game and the next one, I'm not really too upset. The fact that they got 4 points out of the Florida trip is enough to kind of give them some cushion and allow them to make a mistake here and there against some of these really big beasts of the East. I mean, having Carolina and Boston on two out of the 3 games this week, it's pretty intense. So hopefully Winnipeg can prevail in this one and come out with a massive win. Not really expecting it. I think Carolina will probably win 4-2. But then again, I also thought that there was no way the Jets would get all 4 points against the Panthers and the Lightning, especially in light of Hellebuck's recent performance. But, Hellebuck showed up in a big way in these games. I expect him to be suiting up this evening. Should be a fun one for the Jets. Hopefully Winnipeg can show us just a little bit more and, play the Canes evenly. But honestly, at this point, you're just hoping that Winnipeg wins somehow. Forget the process. I think we all know that the process this year has kind of been uneven, to put it lightly, but at least we're seeing Sandberg being elevated into prime top pairing roles with Morrissey out. Sandberg, meanwhile, has done quite well with DeMello, so that's positive. Hopefully that continues. And hopefully Sandberg doesn't get benched again. I mean, if Morrissey draws back in, I think Stanley, we all know, should be the odd man out. I don't think he's really been doing what he's been asked to do, and I think Sandberg is just a better all-around defender. So let's hope that Dylan kind of comes back in permanently. I think he's been one of Winnipeg's best overall two-way defenders and somebody who, quite honestly, just shouldn't be riding pine for the rest of the season. But you never know with this coaching staff. They do have some Paul Morrissey kind of streaks in them. Not surprising. You can't always undo the DNA that kind of rides underneath this team, but it would be nice if against a team like Carolina, Winnipeg puts its best foot forward and gives us as good of a unit as possible. But at least in the meantime, that Connor or the Ehlers, Scheifele, and Niederreiter line, or I guess it's Connor, Scheifele, and Niederreiter, that trio has been dynamite. Niederreiter has continued to fit in like a glove for this team, and that is stuff that we just love to see. Speaking of Niederreiter and the other acquisition, Namestnikov, I did kind of want to talk about how they've been since joining the Jets, and sort of where I see the rest of their season going in just a moment. Before we go any further, though, I do want to shout out our friends and partners at FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. All you have to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers to the number of threes drained. Maybe this year you want to bet on the Milwaukee Bucks as another champion, obviously a repeat with Giannis having another MVP caliber performance. Maybe you want to bet on the number of points LeBron James is going to finish with as he continues to add to his historic milestone pace. Or maybe you want to bet on Steph Curry and the number of threes he's going to finish the year with as he continues to still be, despite getting up there in years, one of the league's elite shooters. No matter what, FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. Don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Hello, friends, and welcome back to this episode of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I just wanted to quickly kind of revisit Winnipeg and take a look at some of the top players for this year, but more specifically talk about the recent performance of some of our new acquisitions and also some of the performances of Winnipeg's, current veterans and important contributors. So, obviously, Winnipeg has had a couple of games of Ladislav Namestnikov and Nino Niederreiter, and honestly, I would say some of this is puck luck, so don't read too much into it. But small sample sizes be darned. Namestnikov and Niederreiter have actually been pretty darn good. Now, with Niederreiter, that's not really surprising. I think Nino, for me, is a really good player. Somebody who, again, I've said on previous episodes, I was pretty high on. And actually, before he joined Carolina in Nashville, I was hoping that he would one day come to the Jets, but it just never panned out for one reason or another. So we've had to watch him play for other teams and be pretty darn good, a little bit underappreciated, and certainly not really scoring at a point per game pace like he is just about right now. But Nino has always been just a really effective middle six player, somebody who can kind of slide up and down your lineup and be that matchup nightmare against depth players, while also giving you a decent scoring impact in your top six if you need him there. So the Jets definitely cooking with him. He's been great. 6 points in 7 games, 3 goals, 3 assists. And I've just liked his offensive positioning. I feel like the top six definitely needed a shooting boost, and he provides that. It's not on the level of like a Timo Meyer or anything like that. But if you're looking for like a solid finisher, somebody who will, give you a little bit more right-handed depth on that right side, give you a little bit more of a scoring punch, Nino has certainly fit the bill. And for a guy who's being paid $4 million and will make $4 million next year, just a really, really good value contract. Honestly, that was probably for me one of the best value trade deadline acquisitions of any team. And I know I'm saying this as a Jets fan, but not to be too biased, just objectively speaking, bang for your buck. I don't really know if he could do much better than a second round pick next year for a player who's got a year plus change on his deal. So Nino Niederreiter home run trade, I think it was fantastic value, and it seems like so far he's really hitting it off with the Jets. I wouldn't be shocked if he finishes with both the regular season and the playoffs something on the order of, I don't know, 20 to 25 points, maybe 25 to 30 points with his first run with the Jets. Obviously, he has like 15 games left, and if you estimate that he'll probably score, I don't know, maybe 2/3 of a point per game, I think, modestly speaking, 20 to 25 points is probably where he'll finish this season, but maybe he has a scoring rate that continues to stay around a point per game, which would be awesome for the Jets. Maybe he even gets closer to that 30 mark, but either way, smash hit. I think he's been a great acquisition. Namestnikov, interesting guy, right? Vlad has always been one of those players that tends to be more on the defensive side of things, I would say, especially over the past couple of years. I feel like Vlad is one of those players that I was never particularly high on, even though whenever he played for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the postseason, he always seemed to score really important goals. I enjoyed watching him, but in terms of what I thought he would do for the Jets, I wasn't really expecting a ton out of him. So far, though, he's had like a point per game, 2 goals, 3 assists. Not bad for a guy who, quite honestly, I expected to be more of like a third or fourth line role. Obviously he had to slide into Winnipeg's second line recently as a result of all the injuries, and he's done well enough, right? I wouldn't expect him to be a point per game guy throughout the rest of the season, but if he somehow does, that'd be fantastic. I just don't think that's necessarily his game. Both he and Nino tend to be modest impacts on like scoring chance creation, shot creation, and expected goal threat, which, none of these things are the most important parts on their own, but certainly when you're trying to figure out the sum total of a player, right? What are they bringing for you on the ice? Nino is going to give you that finishing ability and the good shooting rates, whereas Namestnikov, again, more on the two-way side, more on, to be honest, more on the defensive side of things, a guy who is a really solid depth piece. But so far, in terms of just the individual performances of the players the Jets have brought in, I would give them probably an A-. I think both have been really good. I think they, will continue to contribute and hopefully give the Jets some much-needed depth in light of the current injury crisis. And once everyone is kind of back to, I guess, full health, as healthy as you are in a regular season or playoff season, hopefully these guys can really help the Jets anchor a much better top nine than what they started the season off with. So, yeah, can't really complain about them. But I think for the existing Jets veterans, I do have some question marks for a couple of the players. Some of them, I've been seeing recent stuff with their play that's kind of left me a little bit confused. They might have really good scoring records this year, but in terms of what they're actually contributing on the ice, I do have to ask, is this the best that they can do? And one of the names might surprise you a little bit unless you've watched his shifts closely. We all know that one of our top 6 players not named Mark Scheifele, surprisingly, hasn't exactly been keeping up as of late. And even though his scoring record this year is really good, yeah, there's something up with him. We'll talk about who this is and some of the other veteran players who are struggling in just a moment. Before we go any further, though, I do want to shout out our friends and partners at Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product that I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I was looking for a boost to my immune system and a affordable, easy daily routine that's not complicated, that's not super fussy, and gives me a boost. If you're wondering what AG1 is, it's just one scoop of mixture stirred in a cup of water every single day, and it helps you absorb 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. It's lifestyle friendly for all of those with keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free dietary restrictions. It contains no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or weird artificial additives. I know a lot of you are probably really sensitive towards that stuff, and AG1 has your back. Of course, it costs less than $3 a day, which is a lot cheaper than those cold brew habits you might be used to. And best of all, Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews. You don't have to take just my word for it. Plenty of pro athletes, trainers, and fitness enthusiasts have really rated their products well. And again, I think it's great. I think it's really affordable, and it's super convenient. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Hello, friends, and welcome back to these closing thoughts on tonight's episode of Locked On Winnipeg Jets. We are just wrapping up really quickly with some thoughts on a couple of veteran players for the Jets who, for me, haven't quite been giving as much of an impact as I would hope. Some of them have been doing well on the score sheets, but I don't know. Something in their game has been wanting for me. I think the first player that recently has sort of stuck out as maybe being a little bit mixed for me is Kyle Connor, which is funny, right? He's got 73 points in 67 games. He's been one of the lead shot generators on this team, one of the most influential power play players, and yet there's been something off with him this year. I don't know what it is. It feels like he's not entirely in sync with his line mates. Certainly defensively, we know that Connor is, well, kind of absentee, right? We know that tracking back and doing defensive marking, winning board battles, that part of his game has never really been something that he focuses on. And in terms of like cheating for offense, he does tend to do that a bit, which as long as he's scoring, I don't really care. But I do kind of wonder about some of his in-zone stuff offensively. Sometimes it seems like he gets tunnel vision, which, last year and parts of this year, he was doing a better job of using his line mates. But here it feels like recently he's kind of been, I don't know, a little bit too single-minded with the puck, which it's weird to say because it's kind of his job, right? Like as a sniper, your job is to be the shooter, the lead scorer for this team. And so he's doing his job correctly, but it feels like it's not quite working the way it should. I don't know if I can explain it 100%, but it feels like in terms of offensive production, there's something that he's leaving out there that's not quite to where I would want him to constantly take all these shots. I think it'd be nicer if he brought in his line mates a little bit more frequently, and you'll look at his assists and you'll say, well, he is doing that. And that is true to a point, but I think a lot of that is because guys are cleaning up rebounds or, occasionally he has some really nice passes and stuff, but I feel like there's an element to his game that's kind of fallen off compared to some of the stuff that we saw last year and earlier at the start of the season. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't quite feel right. It's the same kind of feeling that you have when watching Blake Wheeler, although I think with Wheeler, you sort of know what's wrong with him. He's just getting up there in years, and he's definitely slowing down. He's almost a point per game, and yet when you watch him, you're kind of wondering how exactly that's happening, in part because he just seems like he really struggles to carefully handle the puck. Under pressure, he's caused a lot of turnovers. Some of his mental decisions are a little bit, I would say, not to where he'd probably be satisfied with them. I think, the icing the other night against the Sharks is a really good example. I think If he had it to do over again, he would not have iced it the way that he did. Probably would have just tried to have lifted it into the neutral zone and play out the time that way instead of what ended up being a very costly mistake, and the Jets left a point on the board. So, yeah, Wheeler, Connor, you can feel like there's something just a little bit off with their games this year. Thankfully, their offensive skill and stuff is still at the level where it's less of an issue for them in terms of scoring because they still have other very useful traits that allows them to contribute. But yeah, not quite to what you need for a team that really wants to be a true playoff contender. And then Pionk, yeah, Neil's just having a really wretched season, which is strange to say for a guy who's one of the better blue line scorers on this team. He just defensively has really struggled, and it feels like every time he's elevated into a first pairing or a second pairing role, he just really struggles. And it's tough to see because, like I've said in the past, he always fights for the badge. He's always very accountable. But in terms of what you're getting on the ice, I think the Jets are going to have to find a way to move his deal this offseason. It feels like the version of him that we've seen is more like what we saw when he was with the Rangers. And so that North Division season, it's kind of distant in the rear view. And at this point, what you see with him is kind of what you get, which is a guy who can be an effective scorer, but somebody who defensively causes his team a lot of headaches. And it's a shame. Pionk is a fun player. I think that he's had some really cool one-on-one moments, but the overall sample that we're getting with him is that at times, offensively, he's pretty good, but defensively, below replacement level, and the defensive impacts are really outweighing the benefits that you're getting with him. So we'll see what the Jets do this offseason. His contract is not cheap, and I don't know how many teams out there would be interested in his services, but maybe someone is. Heck, somebody bought in on Eric Goodbranson, so you never know. Obviously, just let me know your thoughts on how you feel about some of the veteran players. Who do you think has done really well? Who are you not impressed with? How do you feel about the newcomers? Drop your thoughts and feelings in the comments below or at my social medias at HLivingLoco and at LO_Winnipeg Jets. For tonight's episode, though, that is going to be all the time that we have. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Jets your first listen today. Make your second listen Game to Game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result, Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the league with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Thanks for listening. Have a great night. See you here tomorrow, and go Jets go.